My husband knew my affair partner was going to leave me. He knew before I did. That was the part I couldn't understand. When Marcus finally packed his bags, I called my husband in tears. I expected him to be surprised. Instead, there was silence. Then he said, "I know." I froze. "What do you mean, you know?" He sighed. "I knew this was coming. My name is Claire. My husband's name is Thomas. The man I betrayed him with was Marcus. Thomas and I had been married for 14 years. We met at 24. We weren't the kind of couple people noticed when we walked into a room. We weren't exciting. We weren't glamorous. We were just comfortable. And for years, I thought comfortable meant boring. Thomas remembered my coffee order. He knew when I needed space. He knew when I was pretending to be fine. He never made grand promises. He simply kept the small ones. Then Marcus came along. Marcus was everything Thomas wasn't. He was spontaneous, charming, restless. He made me feel like I was 25 again. Our affair began with harmless conversations, then secret lunches, then hotel rooms, then lies. I told myself I wasn't unhappy. I told myself I had simply found someone who understood me better. But the truth was simpler. Marcus made me feel wanted, and I'd forgotten how much I liked that feeling. Thomas eventually discovered the affair. He found a hotel receipt in my purse. He placed it on the kitchen counter, then waited for me to come home. "Who's Marcus?" I cried. I confessed. I apologized. I promised it was over. Thomas looked at me. "Do you love him?" I couldn't answer. That was enough. Thomas moved into the guest room. For 3 months, we barely spoke. Then one morning, he said, "I'm not going to compete with him." 2 weeks later, I moved out. I moved into Marcus's apartment. I thought I had finally chosen the life I wanted. The first few months were incredible. We traveled, stayed out late, spent entire weekends in bed. I felt young again. Free. Then things changed. Marcus started coming home later. He stopped asking about my day. He became irritated by small things. One night, I asked, "Are you happy?" He stared at me. "I don't know." I laughed nervously. "That's not a good answer." He shrugged. "Maybe." Something had changed. I just couldn't see what. Over the next few months, Marcus became distant. He stopped talking about the future. He stopped mentioning marriage. He stopped saying, "we." I noticed. But I ignored it. Because admitting he might leave meant admitting I'd destroyed my marriage for a relationship that wasn't going to last. Then one Friday night, Marcus came home with a suitcase. He placed it beside the door. "We need to talk." My heart started pounding. "What's wrong?" He looked at me. "I can't do this anymore." I laughed. "You can't do what?" "Us." I felt like the floor disappeared. "Are you seeing someone?" "No." "Then what's wrong?" Marcus sat down. I thought I wanted this. "What changed?" He looked at me for a long time. "You did." I couldn't breathe. "What does that mean?" "You were different when I met you." I stared at him. "You were exciting." He paused. "But now, you're just you." That sentence destroyed me, because I'd heard it before. Not from Marcus, from myself. Marcus packed the rest of his things. Before leaving, he said, "I hope you figure out what you're actually looking for." Then he walked out. I sat on the floor for hours. I didn't call my friends. I didn't call my family. I called Thomas. He answered on the second ring. "Claire?" I couldn't speak. Finally, I whispered, "He's gone." Silence. Then Thomas said, "I know." My stomach tightened. What do you mean? I knew he was going to leave. How? Thomas sighed. Because he called me. I froze. Marcus called you? Several times. When? Months ago. I couldn't believe it. Why would he call you? Because he wanted to understand you. I started crying. What did you tell him? Thomas was quiet for a moment. The truth. What truth? Say that. That you don't leave people because they're not good enough. Say that. You leave when you think someone else will make you feel different. I covered my mouth. Thomas continued. He asked me why you cheated. What did you say? I told him I didn't know. Then he asked if I'd ever seen this side of you before. Thomas paused. I told him yes. Several times. I felt sick. What do you mean? You'd get restless. You'd convince yourself the marriage was the problem. You'd imagine a different life. And when things became ordinary, you'd start looking for something else. I whispered, You're saying I did this before? No, not like this. But you did it emotionally. You were always running from something. I started crying harder. Why didn't you tell me? Thomas's voice softened. Because you wouldn't have listened. That hurt. But Marcus knew. He eventually figured it out. I sat there silently. Then I asked, Did you want him to leave me? Thomas answered immediately. No. I wanted you to stay with him. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Why? Because if you left him and came back to me, you'd only be coming back because you were hurt. I started crying again. Thomas continued. I didn't want to be your safety net. I wanted you to understand why you keep running. That conversation changed everything. I spent the next year alone. No dating, no affairs, no chasing excitement. I started therapy. I learned to sit with silence. At first, it was unbearable. Then, it became peaceful. I finally realized something. Marcus hadn't stopped loving me because I wasn't exciting enough. He stopped loving me because I had made him responsible for feelings I didn't know how to manage. And Thomas hadn't lost me because he wasn't enough. I'd simply convinced myself that happiness was something another person could give me. A year later, I met Thomas for coffee. He looked happy. I told him what I'd learned. He smiled. I'm glad. Do you ever regret letting me go? He thought about it. Sometimes. I looked down. Do you still love me? Thomas smiled sadly. I'll always care about you. But that's not the same thing. I nodded. For the first time, I understood. He wasn't waiting for me. He wasn't hoping I'd come back. He had simply forgiven me enough to stop carrying me. Months later, I heard Marcus had gotten married. I was genuinely happy for him. Not jealous, not heartbroken, just grateful. Because if Marcus hadn't left, I might never have learned why I kept running. And if Thomas hadn't known it was coming, I might have blamed Marcus for everything. Instead, I had to finally look at myself. My husband knew my affair partner was going to leave me, but he didn't warn me. He didn't sabotage us. He didn't celebrate when Marcus walked away. He simply understood something I couldn't see. Marcus wasn't leaving because he had found someone better. He was leaving because he'd finally realized he couldn't be the person who made me whole. And Thomas had known that from the beginning. The hardest lesson of my life wasn't learning how to keep someone. It was learning why I kept trying to leave.